This coverage of MWC is brought to you by Bitdefender Mobile Security. The Samsung Galaxy S5 is definitely Samsung's powerhouse, but how does it stack up to LG's powerhouse? Hey, it's Joshua Vergara from Android Authority. What's going on, everybody? And this is the Samsung Galaxy S5 versus the LG G2. When it comes to design, the Galaxy S5 does introduce a very welcome change from the glossy plastic and brings in a textured soft touch finish on the back, though overall the design aesthetic is very similar to the S4 before it and the Galaxy Note 3. You have the same button layout all around basically, but the menu button has been done away with for a recent apps button. Speaking of button layouts, LG attempted something very different with the G2. Now, while it is still made up of a slippery and glossy plastic that is fingerprint prone, what is really unique about this device is the button layout because it is now on the back of the device that is supposed to be used by your index finger. Convenient or not, this positioning allows for a very clean look to the front of the device. And helped along with the ultra-thin bezels of the G2, which really makes this display shine through, we absolutely have no distracting elements on the front. Overall, it's a battle of soft touch plastic for the S5 that may or may not look good according to your standards, and then of course the curved back with the button layout on the back of the G2, and in either case you do have a pretty pleasurable device to hold. Now, both devices do feature 1080p displays, with the LG G2 coming with a slightly larger 5.2-inch IPS LCD display compared to the 5.1-inch Super AMOLED display of the S5. You're not going to find that much difference in the sizes here, but we will say again that the bezels on the G2 are quite small, which is very attractive to us. Either way though, the colors are very vivid and the brightness and the viewing angles are not issues with either of these smartphones. Both of these phones boast Snapdragon 800 processors, while the S5's is a slightly updated version that is clocked in at 2.5 GHz compared to the 2.26 GHz found in the G2. 2 GB of RAM and Adreno graphics offer best-in-class processing packages, with the S5 just getting the slight nudge of being faster. Micro SD expansion is missing from the G2, which is always one of the advantages of Samsung devices, and built-in storage is available at the standard 16 or 32 GB. Now, while the LG G2 does boast a bigger battery, which likely accounts for its slightly extra thickness, it has a capacity of 3000 mAh over the 2800 mAh unit found inside the S5. However, the S5, much like many other Samsung devices, does remain with a removable battery, so if you have a spare, then you'll have more power than the G2. Now, one part we're really excited to put through its paces in this comparison in the future is a camera fight, because both of these devices offer very good optics. While the 13 megapixel rear shooter of the LG G2 comes with optical image stabilization, which is a big deal, Samsung has definitely upped its ante with the 16 megapixel ISOCELL camera. We're very excited to see what kind of camera quality we get from either device and see how they stack up to one another. When you look at the software over the last year or two, you might find that if these two companies weren't rivals in terms of their software offerings, they'd probably be more like brothers. After all, both UIs are very bright and colorful, almost probably bloated and cartoonish in their appearances, and are packed with long lists of features that you may or may not use. Useful LG G2 features include the Knock On, which will be updated to the Knock Code, and while the S5 is loaded with a ton of new software enhancements like the Magazine UX and the Kids mode, you do also have some hardware additions like the fingerprint scanner and the heart rate monitor on the back. One thing is absolutely certain, that in these two iterations of these two companies' flagship devices, they are trying to offer a lot for the user experience. You just have to take a look at the settings toggles and the notification dropdown to see just how much they both offer. Now, when it comes to the camera software, they both aren't all that different either, by offering numerous modes, filters, settings, and really it's only a question of which device offers more that you would want. And so, there you have it for this quick look at the flagship devices for Samsung and LG. Both do provide very full-featured offerings, however, the G2 does change it up a little bit with that different button layout on the back, while the S5 pretty much just takes the formula they've always been giving and continues to add on top of it. Whichever one is better for you depends on which one offers what you need for your experience. So keep it tuned to Android Authority for all of the best Samsung Galaxy S5 coverage, and remember to stay tuned here because we are your source for all things Android.